banjo. Know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Films Narkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 679, A Milestone.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
A Niled stone?
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I forgot the movie.
That's okay.
Yeah, Agatha Christie's Death on the Nile. I have to say it dramatic like that.
Yeah, well.
At least it wasn't titled like the old one was like Agatha Christie's Poirot.
Was that really what it was called?
Death on.
Oh! I was thinking like the last one that we saw.
Oh
It had,
no!
it
Like
had
the original version of the
Sure,
movie,
sure,
where it
sure.
had like 3 different title sequences: Agatha Christie's Poirot, Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie.
like Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Exactly.
Right.
I-
Francis Ford Coppola presents Francis Ford Coppola's The
Yeah.
Godfather.
And I'm just like, I mean, like, I get you made the movie and you're Francis Ford Coppola, so like you're not nothing, but man, putting yourself in front of
Bram Stoker.
Like, okay, man. But
I mean,
Stoking
it is
his
a
ego.
very different movie.
I've never seen it.
Have you never? Oh, really? Have you
Yeah.
ever seen it?
Yeah.
You have seen it?
Yeah.
It's a weird movie.
It's just I like those sorts of movies. Just do nothing for me, and I like Francis Ford Coppola. I just for whenever that came out, I was just like, yeah, vampires. Just never.
sort of.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's.
I don't know.
Gary Oldman has given a performance of his life, and
Yeah.
it's Keanu Reeves doing an accent of some sort. I don't know what that is, but
It's
it was an
questionable.
accent,
Well, let's not forget shameless plugs. Don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find a podcast, you can find us. And while you're there, don't forget to perhaps leave us a review. That's always helpful. And of course, follow us so you don't miss an episode. You can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page and join the group. The group is where most of the conversation is taking place, and it's called the League of Show Shares because we're hoping you will share an episode, and sometimes people do. People who were kind enough to share an episode last week are Chris Valls, Travis Tewitt, Chris Magic Man, Heather Sachs, Ralph Tribble, Tammy Sherman Powers, Librarian Cynthia, Julian Jordan, Tom Dowdy, Feelin' Film, James Install, Ryan Terry from the Forza Crowd podcast, Ronnie Castle, Suzanne Leist. I struggle with that every week. In Session Film, Nostalgia Cast, The Manic Pixie Weirdo Cast, Geek to Me Radio, Chris Williams, Invasion of the Remake, Minorities Report, and Mike, and Oscar. And I think I figured out how to see everyone who's sharing them.
Oh, sweet.
It's
wow.
a really simple fix. I just have to find the post and then grab the link for that specific post and then email it to myself and
my God.
open it in a mobile browser,
Oh,
and then I can see everyone who shared
Well, that's-
the episode.
But hey,
So I'm really like, what an idiot for not thinking of that previously.
as Zuckerberg intended.
yeah,
Color
no
me
kidding.
red.
Good Lord.
Yes.
We do have a review.
Oh, how about that?
We do.
Is it a new zoo review?
Yeah,
I
coming
wish.
right at you.
Coming right at you.
Can you reference that show? You've never even seen it. You only know it because I say News Zoo Review.
Those
That
references.
counts?
Those references are from the Dan and Tom years.
That's right. Yeah, right. 5 stars. Nobody does it better. Nobody.
Wow.
This is from TD fan of 88. It's close enough. This podcast will be all you ever need. I have taken a journey with these guys over the past 6 months or so and listened to all of their podcasts from the first. I am now on episode 671. Whoever wrote this, I want you to know that I corrected yourself because you wrote I am no, so I just fixed it for you on the
This
fly.
is what a way to really encourage reviews.
Yeah, you're really ingratiating
that's
yourself
true.
with the listeners.
Usually
there.
people just read over those and then don't
I
point
did.
it out.
And then I just fixed it. Tom, Joe, and Kevin are just incredible. I feel like I'm sitting with friends listening to them. Their rants are awesome, the stories are great, and the insight they bring to the movies are fascinating. Set aside an hour and listen to any of their pods. You'll get hooked. My only regret is that I am almost caught up and will be able to listen to them once a week. until I sign up for their Patreon. What are you waiting for? Don't make the same mistake I did. I didn't find them until they were 7 years in, and now I hope they have a long time together ahead.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
very
That's
nice.
very
That was
nice
great.
review.
And if you just can't get enough, I guess you could always buy a Peloton.
That's true. For how much longer?
Oh, that company ain't going nowhere. It's too big. Like, you know what I mean? Like, somebody would,
Sure.
worst case scenario, somebody would scoop up that brand,
Right,
and
right.
it would keep right on chugging under different ownership.
I do
But-
feel this is a silly joke. I feel like Peloton is like the Joe Rogan of like exercise bikes, where they're just every time you see an article, they're just trying to be like, it's bad. They're losing stock. They're losing money, and you guys aren't. Well, I mean, maybe you are, but I don't know.
I mean, the stock is not where it was, but during
Sure.
the pandemic, it got up to like $170 a
So
share.
it's just leveling off.
And so, yeah, it kind of, but yeah, like the company itself, like if somebody's like, should I even buy a bike? I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I always tell people this when they're like, can you name a Peloton instructor?
No.
Can you?
Is John Mills a Peloton
No,
instructor?
he's one of the people on our show.
Okay.
But,
Well,
like, there was a guy on Dancing with the Stars.
I
That's
don't
an,
watch
that's
that,
an
yeah.
instructor?
Yeah.
Okay,
Cody
okay.
Rigsby.
Yeah.
But like,
Oh, I was gonna say that.
yeah. But like a lot of people, even they know instructors, but like nobody knows a Nautilus instructor
No.
or a Bowflex instructor.
Should you though?
I mean,
Like, is it-
they hope that you do,
Oh, okay.
but like they have legit celebrity instructors. I mean, one's got a best-selling book, another one's about to put out a book that I'm sure will also be a bestseller. One's on Dancing with the Stars, the other one popped up on the Sex and the City
It's
remake.
so
I mean,
ingrained into our culture at this
Yeah.
point. How many movies and TV shows, for better or worse, I know lately it hasn't been very good, but
Yeah.
how many of them have featured Pelotons? Like, it is now the
Yeah.
new, I guess, like you could say Bowflex or something. If they put a piece of exercise equipment,
it's gonna be a Peloton.
it's a Peloton.
Yeah,
now,
I mean,
so-
Bad Boys 3.
Yeah.
He's running on a tread.
And all
what's
these-
now called a tread plus, the one that killed
3
people.
or 4?
4, sorry.
Yeah, okay, I
no,
was
wait,
like-
there's 4 of them, right?
Yeah.
Bad Boys, the most recent one.
4.
4.
That's 4.
Yeah.
Bad Boys.
there's 3 Bad
No,
Boys
there's 4.
3.
Oh, you know why? Because
3.
they call it Bad Boys for Life.
It's 3.
And they should have just saved that
Yeah.
for the 4th
They
one.
should have.
You're
Yes,
right. I'm
that was
sorry.
dumb.
I was
Like,
thinking.
but
I was
yeah,
thinking.
I was like,
I was
I
like
thought there were
4.
only 3.
Bad Boys for
That's
Life. I was
Binge
like, that's
Movies. You must have watched that from Binge Movies
Oh, did I?
library. Well, Binge Movies has every movie ever made or not.
Oh, or not made. Yeah,
so
right.
you clearly went to
They've got
Binge
it
Movies
already.
for the
Yeah,
4th
yeah,
one.
right.
I'm just like, I'm not going to double down on my Bad Boys knowledge. If you say there's 4, I guess there is.
Friday the 13th and Halloween. Then you can.
Yeah.
I don't.
But yeah,
question
like
you,
there's a scene in when they're showing his big fancy apartment in Miami, and he's running on the Tread Plus, which
Okay.
when they were filming that was so new, you couldn't get one. They actually, have I told this story?
No.
The
Did they go
produc-
get it from a user or something? that
They
loaned
needed
them
it
the
from a
bike?
user. The production company actually reached out to my wife to get hers, but they were shooting in Miami and they didn't want to pay to move it.
I mean,
so
that's
they
a big
found,
move.
They found somebody closer.
Yeah, I remember you telling me.
Huh,
that.
Yeah.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so I was just like, I just want to get my picture taken with Will Smith.
Where's Will Smith's sweat on my tread?
Yeah,
The tread didn't exist.
I gotta
at that
tell you,
point.
I did see the trailer.
yeah.
for,
The Tread it was the Tread Plus, but they called it the Tread, and then they later came out with the smaller Tread, and now they call that the Tread, and the old Tread is now the Tread Plus.
Oh,
It's like, but if we were in Germany,
Yeah.
I would make your
The-
it's
vote.
a real
Yeah.
HBO Max situation going
Yeah,
on over
it's
there.
kind of a mess. Yeah, but yeah, at the time that was the only tread they had, and there weren't that many of them. It had been on sale for like a year, but they had just started putting them out in the market,
like mass producing them.
and they wanted him to have like a really cool, badass, state of the art because the character's
Kill-
rich, right?
Yeah, very much.
So,
Yeah.
but anyway. Also, don't forget we have a Patreon, as the reviewer was kind enough to mention. But patreon.com/real spoilers, you get all sorts of bonus content, and you help us out, and that's really nice of you. So
There's some fun stuff on there. I mean, Joe has done the last couple of series based on horror films that we've covered, the new ones here. But like, I mean, Joe and I did commentaries on movies. There's all sorts of stuff on that Patreon that people don't even talk about, because when we did them, we only had a few patrons.
Right.
But you can go back and find stuff that's just like
Some
older,
random stuff.
yeah,
up
some
there.
more. So check it out.
I think I did a breakdown of the Halloween trailer.
Maybe
the 2018 trailer.
Yeah, there's all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff on there, whether it be interviews or commentaries or reviews of random stuff. So
Yeah.
and it all helps the show. Like, we really appreciate. We've picked up a few extra patrons lately, and a lot of them are longtime listeners. They're like, "Yeah, I finally did it," and it means a ton to us because I
big
mean
time.
we say it every time, but really it's with the cost of keeping the show afloat with it, whether it be equipment or subscriptions, editing, it all adds up.
All
and
of the
so,
above.
we keep doing this because of your help.
That's
so,
right. That's right.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's all that. Let's dig into Death on the Nile.
Oh,
Game I play in my head is I always try to come up with porn parody titles for the.
What was this one?
This one's a hard one because there's not an obvious, pun choice for Death or Nile. So in my head, I went with Agatha Fistme's Death on the Nile.
That could actually work.
I would have gone with on the Nile.
That's a little on the nose.
But that's just
but also,
a straightforward
that is
porn
what porn
parody
parodies
title.
are.
Yeah,
they're
not known for their cleverness. Every once in a while you get a real gem. Like
but it's right there. It's just
Beverly Hills Copulator.
That's good. That's
on
good.
Golden
Forrest Hump
Blonde.
is also on Golden Blonde.
Yeah.
Also,
not a title you would expect, but there's a lot of people that like the mature porn.
hey man,
as you age, you want
do,
something that's maybe
you want to see yourself on screen,
right?
Yeah,
Representation is
representation.
important.
Yes,
So-
that's right.
But
Man,
the right stiff. That's,
that's
a good one.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
yeah.
Well, so much for all those new listeners.
It all comes full circle jerk.
Yes. It's a good band.
Death on the Nile. I remember watching the first movie and I thought,
the original Death on the Nile?
Murder on the last one
Yeah.
in this franchise.
Sure.
And I was just like, what I would really like to know is where that mustache came from. I'm like, you legit gave us an origin story for a mustache?
And then you take the mustache away.
Is this where we're at?
I gotta tell,
well, it's the man is more than a mustache, and we had to learn that.
I love a good detective story, right? And I like it doesn't, I like the idea of solving the crime and everything that goes along with it. I liked Murder on the Orient Express.
Mm-hmm.
I liked, I don't know, but there needs to be
Knives
some.
Out.
Was it
Knives Out?
That's the comparison, right?
Right.
Knives Out.
I really liked Murder on the Orient Express, and then Knives Out came out.
Yeah.
And now I like Murder on the Orient Express a little less.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Knives Out took the classic whodunit
Yep.
formula
Yep.
and freshened it up to modern standards.
But
where we have the humor and the.
There is some. Yes, that's the key. Is something like Columbo, where Peter Falk plays that character as just the lovable oaf. That he's so unsuspecting the entire time, sort of like Benoit Blanc. Benoit Blanc kind of has that same
he
quality.
doesn't play it quite as I won't say goofy because in a lot of ways he's goofier, but he doesn't play quite as dumb. But he does have this detachedness that makes you wonder does he know what's going on?
Do you know what you're doing?
He doesn't lead on anyone. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't sit there Poirot sits there and kind of is I'm so smart.
That's
Yeah.
the problem. Sherlock and the new Sherlock is kind of the same way, where he doesn't play it like he's dumb, but he allows the viewer to just stay with him, and when he's already 7 steps ahead, but you never feel like he's being a pretentious prick. And he is
Cumberbatch.
Right? He is.
Because I'm
he very much is. But you are he plays it in a way you're just you're not I don't like this. Where as great as Kenneth Branagh is, and he's very good in this role, there's a level of pretentiousness, and I think
But I think that's what people wanted back then.
maybe
Right?
maybe.
It's there was there's an elitism about him that at the time people aspired to because that you should be educated and you should know things
because they didn't have a whole internet of Poirots.
Sure.
yeah, totally
acting like
and,
that.
and but also at some point it kind of flipped into what we want from a hero, and somebody like Columbo, there was a reaction to that, right? We're going to go the other way where this guy's really smart, but he's going to rope you in. He's going to rope-a-dope you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
I just watched one with John Cassavetes,
he was on a bunch of them,
but I was
because they made movies together.
with Peter Falk.
Yeah, Woman Under the Influence.
Oh, well, the best part about that
movie's a gut punch. It's
Isn't
really
that
good.
isn't that how he made the money for his
he
stuff?
would do Columbo, and then he'd give because it paid so well,
Yeah.
and then he'd give take a bunch of the Columbo money and go to Cassavetes and be like, let's make movies,
Okay.
and then he'd go to Cassavetes and be like, well, come direct an episode of this, or be on an episode of this, or do both, and you'll get some money too, and he was it was, he was like, yeah, take this TV money. And he's like, you probably look down on TV, but one, for TV, Columbo's pretty damn good TV.
Oh, yeah.
But even then, it's like, well, okay, come over here, slum it on TV, and then go do your little art movies.
Your little art movies, yeah. But with Benoit Blanc or Sherlock or Columbo, they're intriguing enough where you're just like, they play the rope-a-dope, or they act like they don't know what they're doing,
right?
But then it turns out they're like, I've actually figured this out 3 hours ago. I felt like Kenneth Branagh played that the same way in the first one, and this just felt like a character. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm just remembering it wrong, but it felt like this was a very different movie than Murder on the
Maybe
Orient
based
Express.
on the end. I mean, maybe everything that he went through in Orient Express had an effect on him. This is a direct sequel. He's coming right off that case.
Don't they
and
say at the end
congratulating
like
him.
there's been a death on the Nile? Like
They do. That was like their
the tail end of
that
Orient
was their
Express?
I'm starting the Avengers Initiative moment, because they're like, come with us. There's been a death on the Nile.
But it's just like, but there hasn't been, because he's there when they die.
Well, yeah, that's weird. I don't know.
Maybe they don't say death, but they say something about like you need.
He's going on another case.
Yeah, he's going to Egypt for some reason. But it's definitely like setting up the death in the Nile.
Yeah. So that was one of the qualms I had with this. But the cast is good. It's kind of hard not to talk about
the cannibal in the room.
I mean, the cannibal in the room. Every time he's on screen, you're just like, oh man, you are a creepo.
I mean, I guess the reason they didn't edit him out is he's in every scene.
I mean, he's kind of a major character.
And not only is he in every scene, but he's also like, if you think about it, he's touching her a lot. So it's like, it's not like they could re-edit it easily. If you look at the movie, what was the hostage movie that they replaced?
All the Money in the World?
All the Money in the World. So many of his scenes are like he's standing by himself in a big empty room. So it was pretty easy
to recast
to reshoot that. Where with this one, because the whole point is he's in this hot and steamy love affair with Gal Gadot.
He's all over her.
He's all over her. So like, how do you do that
without? So
every time he touches her, he's licking his fingers.
Yeah, it was like, there were like that opening scene on the dance floor where when
she's
the other
bent over.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening?
That scene was
no one
ridiculous.
in the 1920s was dancing like that.
And if you look at it, like half the people on the dance floor were dancing in a similar manner.
It was
if
like
one person did it, it'd be like, okay, they're a little bit whatever. But yeah, that was not the style.
It was like hardcore sex swing dancing,
right?
Like that's.
I saw this movie with my son, and I'm like, what is happening here?
Yeah, it was.
Like, I thought they were going to start doing it on the dance floor.
Yeah,
this is the opening scene with the original fiance,
right?
Yeah,
in the red,
right.
Jackie or whatever.
Jackie, and I was just like, damn, Jackie, like take it down a notch. Like, woo,
it was something. I'm gonna have to get that dress Scotch guarded. I will say, I solved the mystery. Like, I had almost instantly.
As soon as they mentioned the paint, that's all you need.
Actually, I was just like, oh, this. As soon as we got in, first off, it's an hour before somebody gets killed in this movie.
Yeah,
they killed Johnny Depp. Ryan fell asleep, and I'm like, I felt bad. I'm like, man, I thought they would really get to the murder sooner because it was like
they killed Johnny Depp within the first 30 minutes.
They set it up quick.
Yeah.
And like this one, it was just like, gee, I'm like, I was promised a murderer. Well, we're an hour in, because I saw it with my wife, and I was just like, I think the two of them are doing it.
That's what I thought.
And like this has been a setup from the get go. Like it was like she brought her in on purpose,
right?
So then he marries her, gets the money, and
then they kill her, and off they go.
And now all that money's his.
Did you figure it out?
Yeah.
When did you figure it out?
Not at when she shows up on the boat, and I was like, "Oh, here we go."
Yeah,
that's it. That's what we're doing. Like that. I mean,
but she was showing up everywhere. To be fair, like before that, she kept showing up. So it was when you knew she was going to show up on the boat.
I've watched enough, like not true crime, but like detective stories that when the detective says, "Hey, you need to go." And then the one person's like, no, let's stay and do this and go over here. And I was like, well, you're in on it. That's
true, because in this movie, Armie Hammer he's the one that's like, oh, well, to get away from her, we'll just go on a boat instead of staying in town.
Or even going home.
And
that's the deal. They're like, just go home.
Right.
And live your life and be happy. And he even like I did like the scene with Poirot and Jackie where he was just like, move on.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, get out of here. And he gives a great performance. He gives like a very touching and heartfelt. He has a lot of tragedy and loss in this movie, and I think we don't see him act very often anymore. Like he's kind of behind the camera for the most part. But I was like, oh dang! Like I
was
was
just in Tenet. I thought he was a great villain in Tenet.
Oh, he was in Tenet, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right.
And
He's
he was
awesome.
in that Jack Ryan movie. He was the villain.
Yeah, he
in
was the
Jack
bad guy
Ryan
in that.
Was he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The one that we all forget about.
The one that we were like, they should make a TV show instead, and then
And
they
then
made
they
a
did.
TV show instead.
Starring
Yeah.
John Krasinski.
Yeah, which is good. First season's real good. But like,
I liked him in this movie a lot. Poirot.
I didn't like. I thought this movie overall was
Fine.
solid.
Yeah, I
you know
thought it
what
was
I
a
mean.
decent movie.
I thought the last one was better. I think the mystery, even though I solved it, was better in this one. Like I felt like Murder on the Orient Express. Like no one spoiled.
Orient.
It's
you,
a very
you can't solve it.
You can't solve
You
it.
can't solve it.
It's and now I saw the original movie and I thought like, oh, that was solvable. I mean, like you probably wouldn't, but
Right.
but it's doable. Where I felt like the way the last one was made, it was practically impossible for you to
There's
solve.
no way. Like when that happens, which I think is cool in a way because you get to the end, you're like, well, I didn't see that coming. Like,
Right.
there's no way. But it also you can't really play. It's harder to play along when
Right.
there isn't really a possible way to do it.
Yeah, well, and then when
So-
he does reveal what happened, like it comes at you so rapid fire that you're just like, what?
Yeah.
What happened? Like
this, I will say, this one does not do that.
Right.
Like,
Well-
what?
In this one, they have someone delivering exposition to Poirot, who's the world's greatest detective. So I
That's true.
thought for the audience, clearly,
yeah, there's a hell of an exposition dump in this movie.
But his friend Book is telling what everyone's doing, and I'm like, dude, Poirot's sitting right there. He's figuring this all out, but he's explaining to the audience who
Right.
everyone is.
Yeah.
I just thought, I really don't like it when the movie spoon
That
feeds
guy
you.
wasn't in the first one, right?
Yeah, he's the guy that was on the train.
Okay,
he was
that makes more
his
sense
uncle
then.
owned the train or whatever.
Something like that. Yeah,
Okay,
but yeah,
okay.
he's like him and
Poirot.
are the only two that come over.
Okay.
From the last
Or remember
one.
when he's like, I don't think my uncle's gonna like. With all the deaths on the train, he's just worried about like, I don't think I have a job on this train anymore.
And he did.
I think that's just a vestige of how they did murder mysteries back then. Because I recently read a Perry Mason novel. 'Cause I don't know if you know this. I'm 100 years old.
Wait, did you watch the new show?
I did not. And so I heard it was good,
real good.
and that it follows the book more faithfully. And so they had a bunch of the books on sale, and I was just like, they were like $2 on Kindle. And I'm like, okay, I'll buy those. And I read up on it, and apparently there was like almost 100 Perry Mason books.
Oh,
like
wow.
they were
Really?
churning those things out. Yeah. And so it was an interesting mystery, but the storytelling of it was just very dated. I mean, it's from the 50s,
Sure.
and then you get to the court case that that it revolves around, right? Because he's an attorney, is really just an excuse for an exposition dump. Like it's just the plot
That's
device,
kinda great.
so they can put the person on the stand and they'll be forced to explain how they
Sure,
did everything, and like you finally get to it, and it's like 5-10 pages of like, well, in this scene, I mean, they don't say scene, but, and so I just think that's kind of how they constructed them back then.
I will say, okay, that's a great example. That Perry Mason show is amazing.
Yeah.
It's so good. And he's kind of the same. He's kind of the same where he is kind of a dope in that show. Like, cause it's pre,
It's almost like year one.
It is-
right. It's
it's like-
before he's Perry Mason.
it's a zero issue. How about
yeah,
that?
like he's
that's-
becoming Perry Mason.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. He's Perry Mason by the end of the season.
Right.
But he's also, man, yeah, I highly recommend it. It's
So
really
the
good.
plot of this movie.
The plot of this one is, I'm just gonna call him Kenneth Brown. I'm not gonna keep saying that stupid detective's name ever.
Well, especially because they say it's so
they
simple.
do say it's so stupid.
Oh,
He is
Poirot.
Shut up.
Just say Poirot. You don't have to put any
Kenneth
accent
Brown.
on it.
Branagh.
Branagh.
He is in Egypt and he's kind of on vacation. We should say we get a pretty good opening credit sequence with him like directing the military, and he's like, no, look, the birds are flying in. Now is the time to walk across no man's land, which I feel like has never been a thing until Wonder Woman, and now it's a thing all the time.
I kind of like the mustache origin story. Like
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with
I
like
mean,
the
I think it's
gnarly
funny.
scar
I think
and-
it's funny because it's ridiculous on paper to make a mustache origin story.
Yeah.
But it really informs his character because it's like, why does he have a big ridiculous mustache? And they flash back and
What
they
are you,
show
Sam Elliott?
But then they go back and then they show a guy that you're like, oh, that's him. I guess de-aged a little bit. Doesn't look like him, but he's de-aged.
You are absolutely right.
Right?
I did think that was him
Right.
as like
Well,
a
you're
de-aged-
supposed to.
Yeah,
You're
sure,
supposed
sure.
to. There's a guy with the big mustache. You're like, oh, when he was younger, they used a different actor, whatever. And then you find out that that's like the captain of the military operation, and he dies, and Poirot feels responsible, and so
I believe he was actually a capitan.
Capitan.
there you go. And so he, as homage to this guy, like his.
Oh
his,
wait, is that what you think it is?
what?
I thought it was to cover the scars.
Well, no,
Well,
it
it is,
was,
but
but
he
he
said-
did it
Oh,
just
sure,
like
sure,
the.
sure.
Adopted
Okay.
this guy's mustache.
He has the same mustache
Yeah,
as
yeah.
Okay,
Poirot.
but like
would
when
go-
you see the scar on his face, first off, when you see him in
It
the
doesn't
president,
match the
there's
mustache.
no
Does not match.
There's no scar,
No.
and I don't think you could grow hair because
You
that's
could-
scar tissue
Oh,
now.
sure. You
So
couldn't-
yeah, I don't understand the concept. I don't really
they
get.
don't tell you it's a fake mustache.
yeah,
Well, in
That's what it is the whole
in
time.
the first movie, they it's bigger, I think, and so I thought it was really weird that especially when the origin is to cover a scar, they made it a little smaller.
right.
It doesn't
That's
cover
true,
as
yeah,
in the
right,
first
right, right.
movie. It was big, and I watched a couple of scenes, and I'm like, yeah, that looks bigger in the first one. So I don't know.
It does have
but-
like it's also this one is look, I don't know anything about mustache styling whenever this movie takes place, but like there are some like he's got it like waxed in like two different
Yeah.
spots where he's got
Yeah,
like
it's
broken
like
apart.
It's
I
like
was
layered.
but it's cool. But
It's
it's,
like his mustache is feathered.
it's two mustaches basically.
it is basically yeah.
But
you're
it's
right.
cool. But it's cool though.
It's a cool mustache.
It is
Is
cool.
it?
Yeah, it's a cool. It's a pretty.
I think it's pretty cool.
It's a cool mustache.
Yeah.
He's a cool character.
I
And-
couldn't pull it off, but that's
No,
like, if
but-
somebody walked up to me with that mustache, I'd be like, damn.
and I mean, look,
I'd be like, you better be in a barbershop quartet.
yeah, but he has
Are
a
you solving a crime right now?
right.
But he has a sleeping thing that has the two things for the mustache. Like that was a funny gag in the first one when you see it's got the eye cover and the mustache cover with
Yeah.
the two curls.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, I like that though, and it shows you why he has such an interesting mustache, and it actually adds a lot of depth. It's not like I just want to look like a slick
Sure.
barbershop quartet guy. It's like, oh, he's doing it to cover up something, and the love of his life suggested that, and he was scarred, and I don't know. It added another depth to this character.
I would agree.
So it wasn't just like some d-bag that's good at solving mysteries, like
Right.
some pompous guy.
Was there? Did PBS do a bunch of these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they've been making. I mean, he's.
well.
Yeah, they've been making versions of this for years.
Okay.
This
I
one was with Murder, She Wrote. It was the rich lady.
Angela Lansbury.
She was the rich lady.
Was she really?
In the original one, yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so he is on vacation in Egypt, and we happen to see he's looking at and this is the tone I thought we were going to get, where he's looking at the pyramid and he's enjoying, his eccentric coffee and desserts, and we see a kite flying in front of it. He gets all pissed off. And
I
we
thought
find
that
out
was funny.
I did. I know. I do too. Like
He
that's
just threw the cake away because it couldn't be enjoyed. And then he goes and yells at
and
the
finds
guy.
that it's book
Yeah.
or book. I'm just calling him book too.
Book.
Book. And we find out that like Book is there with who I thought was his sugar mama. Like that's the way I initially thought. Like when he starts describing it,
Yeah.
because he says he's a kept man. So I was like, oh, so this guy like he's shacked up with Annette Bening, who I hadn't seen in. I couldn't even tell you the last time I saw her in a movie. But that's what I thought. And then he kept
maybe
calling
that's
her
just
mom.
supposed to be a little humor.
Maybe
That
but
like
then-
his mom is trying to like is always around and
That's
he's
that's
yeah.
the impression that I got. And
Yeah.
Trying to
she's
keep him
taking
on
care
the
of
straight
him.
and narrow.
Yes, exactly. And they end up inviting him to. Well, we should say that the other beginning of this is we see Creepy McCreepertons dancing with Jackie on the dance floor and
dancing. Is that what you call it?
swing. Never mind. I stopped myself. So Poirot is there and he sees all of this happening, and he sees Gal Gadot walk in, and she is like this, the seas part when she walks into this club, and Jackie introduces her to her new beau.
And he has no money, but he has skills, and she says, "Can you give him a job working on your new estate?"
Yeah, and she was like,
And she's
okay.
like, if by estate you mean my vagina.
Then yes, that's what I mean. So they, Jackie says, go ahead and dance with them. And as soon as they start
But
dancing.
the dance is like,
This one isn't.
Well,
I felt
especially
like
'cause, like,
this
the
one's not
other-
as bad as the first
well, okay,
one.
it's not as bad, but for someone you just met,
Right.
he's
That is
still
true.
picking her up, and like it's very sexual.
He's got her vagina in his face.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, like he's an amateur gynecologist.
Yeah, it's a
Sir, you
very
just put her down on the bed. And this
Yeah.
is, what are you doing? But yeah, so then we flash forward. Is it 6 months or 6
Plus,
weeks?
I'm like, where do they rehearse this? How do they know to just dance like this?
Well, here's my question, right? when did the allegations happen compared to where this movie came out?
Well, this was in production before that.
Because this was supposed to come out wasn't it supposed to come out right at the beginning of COVID is when it was
a couple
scheduled.
years
So
ago.
it's been sitting on the shelf for a long time.
Okay, I'm just thinking of Gal Gadot is kind of an outspoken person, which I think is great. But I just have a feeling if the allegations come out and she has to do this scene with this guy, she'd be like, no, thank you.
No one was employing this guy after those allegations.
No, there was something else.
No, he dropped out of 3 different
Oh,
projects.
did he really?
Once that stuff came out, there has been nothing in production since then.
He was
It completely scuttled Lone Ranger 2.
I know. And Call Me by Your Name too.
Episode
That's
2.
supposed to be a real movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Call Me by Your Name
Although
2.
he is going to be in the Bone Ranger.
There it is. We knew, Bonesaw Tomahawk, which is a very different
So
movie.
6 months later, after that meeting, is where the flash
and we
forward
find
is
out
in Egypt.
That now that what's his name has left Jackie and has married Gal Gadot, and they have this huge wedding, and
that was a pretty good transition to where they're at the wedding and you don't know, and they pan out or whatever,
and you
it's
assume
him
it's
and Gal.
Jackie.
Right, that's what you'd think. I just thought that was pretty
Yeah.
good, where it was they don't tell it to you, they don't say it, they show you,
Right.
and you're not expecting it. Also, there's a couple jump scares in this movie.
They got me a couple times.
That my heart was racing when that snake jumped up, because you're not
Yeah.
expecting jump scares in a mystery like this. I mean, again, the
There's
murder.
death on the Nile.
I know, but it's not a horror movie. There's gonna be a death, but it's gonna be a guy oh look, a guy
It's
died.
like somebody of old age.
Yeah, right.
And but man, when that
I
snake,
think he had high cholesterol.
Solve that mystery,
Yeah.
Hercule.
when that snake jumps out
It was
of
good.
nowhere,
It was a good one.
like
Yeah,
I
like that.
actually, and horror movies don't even do that, but Death
No.
on the Nile freaking scared me more than
They
any horror.
Gotcha. That's the best part, right? Because you didn't see it coming.
Yeah,
So Book ends up inviting Kenneth Branagh onto the.
Poirot.
Okay. Just single that out, and you just put it over whatever
Yeah.
time I say it.
The new chicken noise.
Can I just get
chicken
one?
noise.
Can I get one isolated Poirot from you?
Poirot.
Okay,
There
thank you.
You're welcome. Should I have pause in between so it's easier to
I'll
edit
make
out?
it work.
So he invites him to join this party because Annette Bening is involved somehow. I don't. Oh, she's her godmother, right?
No, that's the rich lady,
The gal from AbFab.
I guess.
It's both
Yeah.
of them are from AbFab.
but
They are.
Yeah.
Okay, so really.
Yeah, they are.
I feel bad.
That's.
I definitely
Hey,
recognize
people change as they age. We'll
Bridget.
just leave it at that.
Bridget Fonda.
Yeah.
so okay. Anyway, so
So he ends up hooking up with this group, and we see he ends up becoming kind of infatuated with this jazz singer and her niece, right? That's who she was.
Yeah, it's the niece.
This is the gal that played Shuri,
She's
right?
like her
Yes.
manager.
Yeah. So
Matita Wright is the niece.
that's right. That's right. So they end up, they're doing all this stuff and everything's going great. They're going on a tour of the two the two tombs of Cleopatra, I guess is what that was. Because they keep referencing Cleopatra. I don't know. They go on this tour of
They're in
tombs,
Egypt. They're going to see
and
sphinxes, and
They're
going to CGI sphinxes.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing: there's a lot of stuff in this where I was like, God dang, these are sets. They have to be sets.
Right.
There's no way that they can't. Which I
like
appreciate.
when they're on that boat, it looks really with this water
That's
and
what I
stuff in the
thought.
background.
I was like, if it's CG, it's top level.
but they probably don't have all those actors out there sweating in Egypt. I'm like, was some of this filmed on location? It looks really good. Whatever.
I thought a lot of it looked really good.
In the boat on the water, when they pan out and you see Gal walking and the camera's going with the boat, and there's
Yeah.
stuff through windows and around her. I'm just like, how do you do
Kinda
that?
That
That's-
stuff looked good. What I didn't think looked good was the actual footage of Egypt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
just so
With like a pyramid in the background.
computery.
Yeah.
You know what
Yes,
I mean?
very
I mean,
much
it
so.
was like a really good video game.
A little
Gotcha.
rubbery.
Yeah.
I thought when they showed the pyramid. And
Just
stuff
had
like
that CGI sheen where there's
Sure.
no real. It doesn't look bad. There's just no sense of physicality to it.
Yep.
Interesting.
And that's the thing. I think Kenneth Branagh is a really great director. I think that guy has
Absolutely.
When he got hired for Thor for a reason, right? That's
They were moneyballing it.
That's
we
exactly
talked about
it.
He was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this is
Look
like
at the Shakespeare guy.
fake Shakespeare. Let's get a real Shakespeare
Kenneth
guy."
Branagh's like, I was in Wild Wild West, right?
Hey, that's his Columbo work, right? He's like,
man, he is owning every second he's on
Eddie Hill's
screen.
like, "I'll take your money,
Yep.
and I'll go off
Yeah.
and make my movies."
I-
you know?
What a bad movie that is.
But Jackie shows up at the wedding.
Jackie's at the wedding.
And so that's the first time where you're just like, oh, I mean, she is not leaving them alone.
Right.
And Gal and Army talk
That's his
to
name.
Poirot.
I can't remember his name to save my life.
Because Poirot's there and they know he's this famous detective, and they're like, "You've got to do something." He's like, "There's been no crime committed. I can't."
I do
anything."
like that too, where he's like, "What the hell do you want me to do?"
Yeah.
Like, she's just being a creepo.
And so they're like, "Please, just think about it. Do something."
Is this
so,
where he said, "Go home"? Does he tell them that this because?
No, after he knows that Jackie has a gun.
Oh,
I
that's
think he's
right,
just
that's
like,
right.
I can't stop anything. It's not illegal for her to have a gun. It's not illegal for her to just be here. But, this is not going to end well. You need to go home.
Right.
But he talks to Jackie, and Jackie is basically...
I thought this scene was really good. I like this a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good one-on-one scenes, and especially with Branagh, and he finds out she has a gun, and she's like, well, maybe I can end all my troubles with just one bullet.
Right.
You don't know what that means for whom or whatever, but so then he tells them to leave, and then he's like, just think about it. He walks away from them, and then the next scene is, or shortly after, is like Army showing up, like,
going to a
hey,
boat."
we got a boat. She'll never find us on a boat because, she tracked us to Egypt, but no way she'll rent a boat.
I did think when they were all piling onto that tiny little boat is like the back end kept sinking.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's gonna come a point where you're just gonna flip that thing over.
It was funny because when I saw that, I'm like, they're going for a joyride packed on a little boat. I didn't realize they were shuttling them to the
another
boat.
boat.
So when I saw it, I'm like, huh?
This is dumb.
What did you do? Why'd you hire that boat?
So they get to the boat. We should also say that like in this movie is Jon Snow's wife. Jon Snow's like real life wife. Kit Harington's real life wife is in this. Russell Brand, who is not on brand in this movie at all, which I was like,
he's
okay.
unrecognizable without long hair. Like,
well, even like he's not doing the wacky gimmick.
Yeah, he's
either.
not being goofy.
So, which is very different. I don't think I've ever.
But
seen
I like him
not
with the short hair. I'm like,
Do you think did he have short hair?
in this?
I just kept
Hell
thinking,
yeah.
oh yeah, I just thought it was like pulled back. And
Because
like,
I mean, have you ever seen Russell Brand without long hair?
I
Once
don't
before this,
think so.
Like his thing is that long black curly
That
hair,
crazy hair.
and so this is the first time we've known Russell Brand for 10 or 15 years. He's been around comedies now for a while,
long
at least
time,
a decade, and so we've seen him like that. And he's got short hair in this, and you're right, he's playing a doctor, and it's not a goofy role. I thought he was really good, but like unrecognizable
for what he was given to do. I thought he was really good.
If I didn't know he was in this, I don't think I would have said that's Russell Brand. Like,
really?
Yeah, I just.
So they're on the boat and like things are okay. We get the cousin, Gal Gadot's cousin, is trying to get her to sign some papers.
Yeah, they're setting up all the clues for you to try to figure out, and so it's really shady that they just got married. Now they're on the first day of their boat on this honeymoon, and this guy's like, "Oh, but we need to sign these documents." Like, first of all, what are you doing with those documents? Right? Like, if she signs these, they're gonna be on a boat for 2 weeks. So it's obviously fishy that he's having her.
You know who I want to be around on my honeymoon? Anybody. And they invite everybody. Like everybody that's close to them on this boat.
The destination wedding.
That's exactly it, yeah. So then I'm trying to like everything is okay for the most part.
Well, so they go to they make their excursion.
Oh, they do. They go to the
they're like sphinxes. They're not as big, but they're like two big statues of
the
people.
tombs, basically. And Armie Hammer is like up her cooch, and I don't know how. Like I don't know. I'm not wrong though. Like he's lifting her.
They're outside on the things, and he pulls her dress up, and before that, anything can really come of it. Well,
literally,
a big stone falls and almost kills them.
Right,
He like moves her out of the way.
Everybody back on the boat.
Yeah,
and everybody gets back on the boat, and then there's a moment where even Gal Gadot has a really good one-on-one interaction with Kenneth Branagh, where he's like, I don't understand why you're so upset. She's like, it's the money. Like I don't trust anybody. And he was like, what are you like? Again, laying seeds of like red herrings galore.
Yeah.
We know that like the godmother has given away her fortune and she's a communist, right? Is that they call her a communist?
Socialist.
Yeah. The nephew or the cousin thinks that he's trying to like get her money as well. Even
Russell Brand plays a doctor, but is her
ex-lover or ex-fiancé or.
They were in a
relationship, yeah. So you've got all of these, and then you've got Gal Gadot's. I can't think of the gal's name.
Her assistant,
who is treated like garbage the entire time. So
that's Kit Harington's wife, the assistant.
Yes,
I can't remember her name.
Like Ingrid. I don't know if I made that up. I don't know. She was on Game of Thrones too. You know nothing, Jon Snow. That's her.
I can't even remember that character's name. I put Game of Thrones so far out of my mind.
Get ready for the new one.
I know Jon Snow, but who? I don't
Yeah,
even
of
know
course
what
you
his.
know Jon
I don't know
Snow.
what his wife's name.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Move on.
Okay. Perfect. So they've leveled it up to, and the exception of Book and Annette Bening, who don't really have any like ill will towards any of them, right?
Oh, and Latita Wright, the niece of the singer,
They went to school together.
Went to finishing school together.
That's right. So they're planting all the seeds for everybody, basically.
Right. Everyone has a motive of some sort, or
right.
could, and Poirot's trying to put that together. He's
Correct.
watching everybody like he does, and
so.
But when they get back on the boat after almost being killed,
there's new people.
There's Jacqueline.
There's Jackie, and she has booked. She's like, "What are the chances?" And I was like, "Well, you're the killer. Like, this is ridiculous. Of course, you're on the boat. We know what's going to happen."
Is this boat famous? Like, was it called the Jewel of the Nile?
Well, that's a Humphrey Bogart movie, right?
Well, no, it's a. Well, I might have been, but no, that was the sequel to Romancing the Stone. It was
Oh,
called
that's
Jewel of the
right.
Nile.
Yeah.
So I wonder. It's just when they said the name of the boat, it sounded familiar, and then I thought, well, is this supposed to be some one of the famous boats that would do tours? And I don't really know.
I mean, it's a dope boat. Like it's
beautiful. Yeah. I mean, it's huge, and it has these like the room that Poirot's in is like a suite at the top of a hotel.
When they opened that door, I was like, dang.
I mean,
like,
he got
legit.
they gave him the master suite. Like they're in the janitor closet. Poirot's the best.
That's right. Yeah, he's got the guy who wasn't supposed to be there gets the nicest.
It looked great
room.
where there's all this furniture and stuff. It wasn't. I mean, it was really nice.
I've never been on
a
a
wardrobe
cruise ever.
Yeah.
I have no interest in that whatsoever.
I don't think you get rooms like that.
No, I don't think so. Well, maybe you do on like the tippy top
Oh, I'm
levels.
sure.
Yeah,
Let me. Yes, there are ones that you do. I'm just saying, not everyone, especially an add-on at the last minute, probably gets the.
Right. Yeah, he gets the Harry Potter suite, which is just a mattress under the stairs. So then this is where we think things are going to calm down. Where Armie Hammer says, "Okay, you're right. We're going to go."
Rose Leslie is Jon Snow's wife in real life.
Oh, what was it? Well, okay, but what was her character's name?
Egret.
I was close.
What'd you say?
Ingrid.
Ingrid. Okay.
Yeah. So this is where Armie Hammer says, "Okay, fine. Like this has gone on too far. We're gonna go home." They're in like the parlor.
Let's celebrate with this glass of champagne. And you don't drink alcohol, but please.
Yeah, here, drink this. Well, that's and
That's
I appreciate that. Like he's on the Poirot kind of gets out of there, and he's like, "Whoa, I feel like garbage." And
He should have thrown up. It looked like he was going to. If he
so
would have thrown up,
he'd
he would
been
have
all right.
Yeah.
So inside, like this, he and Jackie Poirot and Jackie have another conversation, and he's just, he tells him about his ex old lady, his gal,
Yes.
and why he is
Catherine, I think.
maybe, but why he's so like cold, I guess, because he's just like, there's no point. Like nobody else is. It's kind of interesting. Like he's like, nobody else is gonna live up to her. So what's the point?
What happened to her? I couldn't. Was it the war? She was a nurse in the
felt
war.
Like
She died on a train or something.
There was a murder on a train.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite catch what happened. I mean,
She's
dead.
It was
but
almost like in Rocky Balboa when they have to explain why
Adrian's gone.
Yeah, when he was like the lady cancer. Like,
Okay.
all right, Rock.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Good
you know
enough.
what? Fair enough.
Yeah.
So we go back into the parlor, and there's a pretty heated exchange between Jackie and Gal Gadot and Armie Hammer. And I do like the line where she's just like, "We've already made love today." Twice.
2 times, and
and
he's
then
like
he goes
3.
And I was like, "Oh man, that's kind of a." Move.
Then they set up that they set up earlier that Gal says I have to take. She's talking to Poirot and she says I have to take a sleeping pill because I can't sleep with everything that's going on.
Right.
And so then in this scene after their argument, she says I'm going to bed. I'm going to take a pill. So don't worry about waking me when you get
right when you come in. So then there's pretty much a heated exchange. Jackie pulls the gun. The gun goes off, and Armie Hammer immediately grabs his leg. This is the other scene too where I was just like, how did he have that handkerchief on his wound covered that quick? Like just the way things happened too fast in that scene, which I think was
there was a lot going on.
It was very
Yeah.
intentional.
But this is where I knew, like, so as soon as they go to that excursion, the mom is painting.
Annette Bening says that
Bening
her
is
red paint is
painting,
gone.
and she paints Book with green instead of red.
Right.
And that's what we found out later, but we see it, and Poirot looks at it, and it's a green outfit or a green jacket, and we had seen in the previous scene he wasn't wearing green.
Right.
It would have stood out a lot, and so that's your first clue.
Why is that?
And she says, I can't find my red. And so I went to Ryan and I go, red is blood, red paint, blood, and it's missing. Someone's going to fake a
the entire time
wound.
I was like, you've got red on you. From
What's that?
Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, yeah.
All the time.
So when this happens and you see him like, oh, it's my leg, you never see a wound, you don't see bleeding happening.
See him immediately
you see a
just grab
handkerchief
it.
covering a leg, but then Book and the doctor carry him out, and I thought, well, okay, now you've got a doctor, so a doctor would have to look at the wound, right? And so I'm like, oh, well, clearly, and so this is where they kind of threw me off at the very end, because I'm like, well, the doctor has to be in on it. That's the only option, because he would see a bone is not shattered.
I thought that she had actually shot him, but just because they made a big deal too about how like
it's a wound.
What a tiny
The
caliber
caliber is
gun,
22.
It's basically a pea shooter, and like you'd have
Which
to.
doesn't make sense for the ending then, but we'll get there.
He's got a different gun.
No, he's got the 22 at the end. She does. It's her.
Oh, you're right. Poirot's got the 45.
Poirot has the big one aimed at him.
Yeah, that's
they've got
right,
the 22. That so anyway, but
somehow is able to.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense because they emphasize it so much with how small it is,
right?
And they try to pull that off, and it's like, okay.
All right, fair enough.
I mean, it can still kill you.
Yeah, but I don't think
one person,
but I don't think
it would
go
stop.
all the way.
Oh yeah,
so
that's what I'm
here's
saying.
what here's what will happen with a 22, given my background.
Yeah,
it enters your body and it will just bounce around. Like it doesn't have enough for a caliber unless it's like maybe if it's like point blank, but usually if you get shot with a 22, it won't go. But what it will kill you is the bullet shatters and then bounces around in your body and then will like hit other things inside your body.
Yeah.
So we had a case one time where a guy got shot and ran like 4 or 5 blocks and then died because the bullet bounced around inside and then killed him. Like not immediately, it was bouncing around inside of him.
And by bounce around, really break apart and just splinter is
basically,
probably more.
Like, it'll
like
ricochet off your bones. Like that's what it'll do. Like the shrapnel will ricochet off your bones. And so he goes, and then all of a sudden, the handmaid goes in and finds Gal Gadot dead. She's been shot in the head. And nobody can figure, and they do a pretty good job of like keeping track of where everyone is.
Yeah.
So like there's
a lot of red herrings set up because you're like, okay, Armie Hammer was just shot. They carted him off.
We know
the doctor was with him.
The doctor was in his room. So like, and they found,
well, no, but eventually,
Tom. I think his name was Tom.
Right.
Yeah.
Book walks off with him, and then they call the doctor, and the doctor comes in. But they're setting it up. They do a really good job of misleading you because you think he's with people, so if he was in on it, they would see that he was in on it. But I mean,
Jackie was in the room. Jackie was in the. So it couldn't. They
took Jackie away to keep her isolated.
Right.
So it couldn't have been her.
And now this is to me, this is when the movie gets rolling.
Yeah, for sure.
Like when he starts trying to figure things out and break.
In a murder mystery,
it takes an hour for the murder
that is
to
the
happen.
problem. Yeah,
but
I do agree with
you're
that.
waiting for a murder, and so I do agree they could have gotten to it a little quicker.
But as soon as you get that one, you get like 3 more real quick.
Well, it never stops once you get this. It's just they should have gotten to it quicker.
Yeah, I agree. Poirot starts interviewing everybody, and everybody has a pretty solid. Some of them have a solid alibi, some of them don't. Like when he's interviewing Tom as he's in the morgue.
Well, that's the great thing is they all have reasons to want her dead. I mean, not that they did, but Poirot is putting together, and everyone could be the killer.
Could be.
Yeah, they all have potential motives,
Right.
which is how these things always work.
And they're all offended that he thinks it's them.
How dare you question me?
Yeah.
So just to breeze through this, he ends up getting, while he's questioning him, we find another body. The body of the handmaid. It ends up, which I thought was a great scene.
Man,
where
I've never seen that before.
I've never seen. I mean, I probably have, but not to that. That was good.
A rowboat paddle.
A rowboat like propeller.
Right.
Like the whole thing. Is that what it's called? It's not really
the wheel.
Paddle wheel.
Paddle. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like, I mean, I've never seen that before, where a body is going around that and then like kicks the glass and breaks it. That was a cool visual.
It was very cool.
It's a good looking movie. Like
it's a real good looking movie.
I would never watch it again, but there were things to like. I just didn't think it's a weird movie because it's like I think the first one was better, but
that's fair.
But I think this one has a better, more fair mystery to solve in the way it's like presented to you.
Sure.
But and I know that like I say that even though I felt like I solved it right away, but I also feel like that's because in the book there are a lot more characters, and so they did a lot of composite characters, and they started scaling things down to keep it tight.
That's good. There's a lot of characters already.
There's already a lot of characters. Absolutely. No, I don't necessarily think they made a bad choice there, but I think because they pared down the characters, it made the mystery a little easier to suss out instead of but there's a lot of characters that if you read the book, and I only know this because I read an article, I've never read the book, but
too busy reading Perry Mason.
Right? Yeah, Perry Mason. Oh, there's 100 of them. But that they took a lot of characters and kind of combined them, and then they did some updating, like the blues singer, or jazz singers, they're shocking. There weren't black people.
Right.
In the Agatha Christie original. And if you wonder why, look up the original title of And Then There Were None, because it went through 2 other titles.
Oh, did it really?
Yes. It would, before it was And Then There Were None, it was 10 Little Indians. Yeah. Oh, that's the better option, because before that, it was 10 Little N-words.
What?
Yeah. And so, because that's the little childhood poem. And then they were like, and then somewhere along the line, they were like, well, maybe that's not appropriate.
Oh my God. We'll use it to this less offensive word.
Let's just, is there something that's equally racist, but maybe slightly less offensive? And then, so now if you buy it, it's called And Then There Were None.
Okay. Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah. Which actually, pretty good title. Right? That's a pretty good title. So now we've got two dead bodies. And so now he's got to figure out how this is connected to this one. We do find out that Annette Bening actually set this whole thing up with him being in Egypt. Book and Letitia Wright's character are in a relationship.
Another update.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very, very much so.
Well, and that's the other thing, too, that the fact that the mother doesn't want them to be married, but they never address really why.
Oh, I think they kind of address. Oh, I guess they really.
She never.
She's
clearly at
her
this
character.
Yeah, at this time period, it would be a race thing,
right?
Yeah.
And they don't say it or make a deal out of it, which I just think felt a little disingenuous, because that rich white lady was not mad because she was
old rich white lady.
I mean, she was smart. She was everything together. I mean, Poirot toward the end says like how good of a catch she is and how great she is and everything. So there's nothing for that lady to not want her son to be with, except for race. In the time period. So I just thought it was odd that they didn't actually point that out.
Well, that's the reason he's there to begin with. That's the reason Book ran into him, is because Annette Bening set it up to where he would be there, and he's
already working a case.
He's been keeping tabs on both of them, the jazz singer and her niece, and he's just like, I have, he tells Annette Bening, he's like, I have nothing but great things to say about them. They're both good people. Like, besides,
which is after.
No. This is the scene where they're both on the steps coming down, and Poirot was like right in the middle. Where Poirot kind of says, he's like, I have a confession to make, and Buca's right there with they're both like, it's actually a very interesting scene where you've got both parties on descend 2 different staircases, and Poirot's right in the middle of them.
Yeah, that's right. I was thinking later when he's explaining things, I think he talks about the book that he stole, but maybe
she said, like, at one point she's like, hey, you took my book, and they do actually look similar, and he was like, oh,
and
sorry.
He didn't take her book, just
that's correct.
It's confusing.
Somebody else did. So now we've got two dead bodies, and then we get and then I guess
so there's an interrogation. The last person he interrogates is Book,
right?
And Book is like, really, you're gonna do this to me? He's like, all right, I'll play along. And then Poirot is actually like, well,
where's your jacket? So we know that
the gal was wearing like $1 million Tiffany's necklace or something.
And it ends up being an Annette Bening.
Most assuredly not a product placement.
Not at all. When it just says Tiffany Company as she opens
it for like 10 minutes.
It went missing, and then everyone was turning over all the rooms, and they ended up finding it in Annette Bening's drawer.
Right.
And so so the necklace was missing. There was a motive there, and then also
Book's jacket was gone.
The Book's jacket, and then there was also a scarf, the rich lady's scarf.
It was the gal from Absolutely Fabulous. So that's that. I will say, I thought that scene was great when he starts interviewing the nurse,
the 2 of them, and
he calls him out, and he's like, but he's not a about it.
Yeah.
He was just like, look, the only thing that would keep this from being is love. And he's just like, and
the way he explains it with the way that
so good.
The bed sheets are made a certain way and they're only folded like this, but you make your bed like this, and this bed was untouched because it's still made the way the boat does, but your bed looks different.
I do like the way they embrace, because isn't that kind of always been the? Is she the other character from Absolutely Fabulous?
Yeah, those are the two.
These are the two gals,
two main women,
and that's always kind of been the thing. Is that they were a couple and they just didn't, right? Am I?
I don't know. I never watched it.
I'm pretty sure that's kind of been like the underlying thing with that show. And then this one's just like, no, they are.
Yeah,
that's absolutely.
That was good. You're right. All the Poirot interrogation scenes.
And it also makes sense that like he's French. Like he's not going to
care.
He's not going to get worried about that.
Yeah.
Even the with the the race stuff with the black singer, like that's, I mean, so many black artists moved to France because they weren't treated like they were in America in France.
Like England has a huge black population too. In Europe, it's just
like Josephine Baker, like that's why she left and went to
Deuces.
France. Yeah, so it also makes sense.
Yeah,
it's not just a modern device.
Yeah,
no, right. And so,
but in the last interrogation, though,
we find out that Book saw. We know that the handsmaid saw who killed Gal Gadot, and she was in the process of her getting money to keep her mouth shut. She ends up getting her throat slit with a very sharp utensil.
They find her with money,
and they're dragging the NILE for the gun because the gun is now missing, and there's like an outline of where the blood splatter was. And Poirot puts it together, like the height and the width, and like this was you. You saw what happened.
So where's your coat? You had to dispose it because it had blood on it. So basically, the servant, assistant, handmaid, whatever you want to call her, found the body, but Book actually found it first. He did not alert them because he thought, well, I want to be with Letitia Wright, but my mom won't ever approve of it, and she's got all the money. So, I mean, this lady's dead, so I'm gonna steal this jewel and fund our own thing. Like it's not the right thing to do, but also like he didn't kill her; she's dead. So you know what I mean? And
I did think when he was like, "You're gonna send me to jail," and he was like, "Yeah," I was like, why?
But that's Poirot. If he breaks that, I mean, look at the last movie, right? Not to spoil what happens, but he's basically like, I have to do what's right by the law, and the only way that I won't is if you kill me, and I'm not going to stop you from killing me. But like, if we get off this train, if I make it off,
he's Rorschach.
I'm turning you in.
So
Rorschach.
So he goes, really? Are you going to really not tell me to try to save jail time or whatever? And then before he can say who the killer was that he saw,
she gets shot in the neck.
Shot in the throat.
And now like.
Chase ensues.
It was good. It was a good little chase. It would remind me a little bit. I'm so stupid, but it does remind me a little bit of Scream, where like you're chasing the character in this, like he's wearing the character's wearing the same thing. But as soon as I saw again
the Scream outfit,
right. But no, but like as soon as this character starts running, I'm like, well, it's a woman.
Really,
like,
you can tell that
just the way she was moving, like the size of her with the size of them. Spoilers, and the way she was running.
Do you mean two people, or do you mean her boobs?
Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, she was stacked.
I mean, we're talking about Joe. It's a fair question.
No, it is a fair question, and she was stacked.
But you know what they do a really good job in this movie is every time there's a death and something happens, the camera disorients you in a way that you can follow the action. It's not that you don't know what's going on or it's unrecognizable, but they disorient you by turning the camera, following characters, and then at the end, characters start popping up out of different rooms and stuff.
I thought that was really cool.
So you cannot go, wait a minute, he was standing there, that person was there. They move the camera enough to where when they come into frame, you're like, well, they could have just thrown an outfit off and whatever, or they could have just been walking there. So I don't know. It was a really good job.
The only one you could say that it wasn't was Armie Hammer.
Right.
Because he's in the room with them, right? Yeah. But that's a great point.
But the cousin starts popping out. The old lady's walking around. The mom eventually comes walking around. What happened? Was there a death? It's like...
And exactly. He walks around the corner, and there's nobody there. But then, like you said, people start like popping out of rooms. You're like, dang it.
It's really good because you're trying to figure it out, and then they don't...
I liked that a lot. That was cool. And now Poirot has had enough. His one and only friend has now been murdered. And he's figured it out. Like he's got it all figured out.
I like the way that they all go into the bar, dining room, whatever, and all the workers lock them in there. It was a really cool, again, camera shot. We see like click, like all the doors lock.
Right. And this
Poirot's,
is where,
and Poirot, okay,
he is beside
the gun
himself.
that shot Book is laying on the ground. When
right.
he
It's the
runs
45
out of
that
there.
the cousin has.
So he's holding this thing and he's walking in there. He's like, the killer is here.
Yeah, the killer's
He is
in this
pissed.
room. Yeah. And this is where he basically lays it out.
Yeah.
We know that the cousin is stealing money, but he's innocent. But he's like, are you going to report me?
But the cousin tried to have them
He
killed.
did. He initially he calls him out first, and he's like at the pyramid. You're the one that pushed the rock. I was like, that's not me. I normally don't do those kinds of things. I was like, oh, murder?
Yeah.
Don't. That's normally not in your
There's
character.
a lapse in judgment.
Just caught me on a bad day.
right.
But he didn't kill anyone there.
He didn't kill it.
Yeah.
Luckily.
Yeah.
So
Be a lot shorter movie.
It would be a lot shorter movie. And he basically clears everyone, and then he gets to Jackie.
He says he shows us the green jacket and the painting. Why
Right.
were they using green? Because the red paint was missing.
Right.
And then they said that Armie Hammer faked the getting shot. But what we didn't know, and which threw me off with thinking the doctor was in on it, because that would be the only explanation. If the doctor says he has a shattered bone,
Right.
Oh,
Totally.
and he was
sure.
faking it, the doctor's in on it, right?
Right.
But then they show me this. I'm like, damn it, I knew it, but I didn't know how.
Right.
But so
Which
Armie
is fun. It's even more fun, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
I
it's
know
cool
it,
when they
but
can
now
trick
I
you. Yeah.
figured out how to do it.
So Armie Hammer, when Book went to go get the doctor, he actually slipped away, grabbed the gun, shot
Gal
his
Gadot.
new wife,
Right.
and then shot himself, muffled it with the lady's handkerchief. That's why that was missing.
Tied it all up,
threw it over,
threw it in the river.
and then was like, "I've been shot." So,
But
the
inside
same-
inside the knapsack was the handkerchief that was
Right.
used as like the decoy. And Poirot says, "Look, blood into the warm water of the Nile will turn anything like a lightish brown. But this paint, this acrylic paint that you use, will turn it pink."
light pink.
And he
yeah.
opens the thing, and it's a light pink splotch.
Well,
on
because after he
this.
spells this all out, and then he says to Jacqueline too, like, "You're in on it. You did the whole thing
You
where
set
you
this whole
introduced
thing up."
them, you did the setup and all that," and they're like, "You can't prove this is ridiculous. This you can't prove this." And then where he's like, "I've got the handkerchief," and
Right.
shows him, and then at that point she's like, "Nobody move," and starts pointing the gun.
Right.
And so now Poirot has the 45 on them,
Yeah.
and then
They like Armie
the singer
Hammer,
had a gun in her.
Oh yeah, which I thought was fun. Like she
hat,
had like a
which she
little
was-
22 in her
Yeah.
hat as well.
So you've got this standoff,
yeah,
which is
sort of like a Mexican sort of. Yeah.
yeah,
Like the good, the bad, and the ugly is what I'm thinking
Yeah.
of.
yeah.
So Armie Hammer and I don't know Jackie, the real woman's name,
Oh yeah.
but they embrace, and Jackie just takes the 22 to Armie Hammer's back and says, "We're good." Plow. And like shoots them both, and they
Yeah.
both. And I thought the way they both died, I was like, well, that's kind of artful. Where like he kind of slumps down in the chair, and she slides,
Right.
like hanging onto his legs.
It was definitely, the imagery was on purpose. It was this movie talks about the things that you do for love. That's this through line from the very beginning of the film, when you see Kenneth Branagh and his relationship with Catherine, that whatever happens, and then all these people doing different things for love.
Everybody, yeah, you're right. Everybody in the movie, everybody's motivation is for love. Where the exception of
The cousin,
Russell,
I guess.
yeah, I guess. But like,
But Russell Brand, I mean, he still loves Gal,
right?
so like that's
and
what
then
there's.
the housemaid, like the housemaid had a husband or had a fiance that Gal Gadot made him leave, or like
paid him
not,
off
not
to-
paid him off, but like said, "You choose. I'll pay off your debts,
Wow.
or you choose her."
Yeah.
And of course, he chose the money. Book and his gal, like
Yeah.
that's love there, and you've
The
got
cousin
the
loves
love
money.
between a mom and a son.
Yeah.
I guess she's his mom. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's his mom.
And then Armie Hammer
Yeah.
and Jackie, like that's
So
all.
so they
it's all- you're
died
right.
for love. They didn't want to be separated in jail. You know what I mean? So she killed them both so they could die together in their last moment. There's something poetic about that, even though they're evil, awful people and murderers, and they're not good people, but the symbolism and the poetry
Yeah.
was there
Yeah.
in the way they died and laid to rest on each other.
Right. So then they dock, and everybody kind of has a moment with Poirot. And I like the thing with Annette. Annette Bening was not nice to him, like almost the entire time. And I do like the scene where she kind of like caresses the side of his face, and like Annette Bening is one of those actresses that I was like, man, I felt like she was like tippy top, like she was top tier, A class actresses, and then she just kind of stopped. I guess I don't know. And so when she shows
She's
up
good.
and she
Yeah.
gives a performance like this, you're like, oh yeah,
She has a gravitas about her.
she does.
That's every line she delivers in this movie is said with a gravitas.
Yes, where she like touches Kenneth Branagh's face, and like she goes weak in the knees because like her this is her son. We assume this is her son has died, and she just can't get it together.
Yeah. And I liked between Poirot and the singer, the whole movie, there's this tension between them. There's some kind of
flirting.
There's a romantic attraction here, but Poirot doesn't let anything take him away from the case, and especially with the memory of Catherine, so he doesn't pursue anything. But there's been this thing between them, and at the end, he starts to say something. He's almost going to say, should we
cuts him
go
off.
on a date or something? No, but he just stops.
Oh, he does stop.
He
You're
stops.
right. Yeah, he
so
stops.
and it's sad, and she walks away. But you're like, man. But then another 6 months pass, and then that's where we're at the
Sans mustache. We're at the same bar that we were in the very beginning. And I do like where the guy doesn't recognize him.
Yeah.
Because he was like, oh, miss, in the very beginning, he was like, come on in and have a seat and take these and blah, blah, blah. And now he's like, hey, pal, we're closed.
Yeah, and the camera pans around really slowly. Again, another really good shot, and to slowly reveal his mustache
is gone
with the scars.
And then it ends with the singer like doing like a sound check. That's what I think they said, is like they're doing a sound check and she's singing in the background. That's how it ends. Yeah, this is like, the mystery's good, but it just took a while to get there.
Yeah. They needed to get to the murder fast.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was
I think the first one was a 4 out of 5 star movie. I think this one's a 3 out of 5 star.
That's fair.
Like
That's
fair. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just, it wasn't as good as the first one, and again, Knives Out kind of ruined it.
It's
in a way.
I did,
because the first part of what made Murder on the Orient Express so fun is, I mean, it's been a generation since we've really gotten a movie like that, right? And so it's like, oh, this is just a fun throwback, like lavish costumes, fancy settings, and of course it's ridiculous. We're all trapped in a room, and like
one of us is the killer,
right? You know, but it's like, okay, but that's what we're doing. Okay, I'm
Clue,
yeah. And
I love Clue
Clue's
freaking
amazing.
much,
which is a parody of things like
right.
this.
Very much so, yeah.
But yeah, Knives Out did it in such a.
Well, the thing is, Knives Out is modern. It's hard because this movie is set. I don't know if it's in
post World
the
War
40s,
II.
right? Because I guess he got injured in World War One.
He got injured in World
post
War One. I think it's like 1940.
So it's around, it's in the 40s. But look at how long ago this takes place. That's 80 years ago, and then Knives Out is modern. So you can talk differently. You have different sensibilities.
Right,
you can be funny in a way where if they spoke the way that we enjoyed in Knives Out for their witty banter, it wouldn't feel like it's the 40s.
Right.
So it has a lot going. It's not a bad thing. It's different, right? Like we like it for that. This movie is a little more restrained.
And Knives Out is kind of winking at you about its ridiculousness. Like it's very self-aware.
They have the contrast between Daniel Craig and his partner. Who played his partner in that? Lakeith.
Lakeith Stanfield.
Yeah. Where like Lakeith Stanfield is like the straight man.
Yeah.
To like kind of the ridiculous.
Because he wasn't really his partner.
Weren't they?
No, Benoit Blanc shows up because Lakeith was a police officer.
He was an actual police officer there to investigate it, and then LeBlanc is just there anyway, and he's just like, "What?
Hey, man.
What are you here for?" Because I spent the first half of Knives Out
asking why Benoit,
thinking that he did it,
Oh,
thinking
sure.
that LeBlanc did it.
Oh,
That's pretty good. Yeah,
that's
little
funny.
did you know.
Yeah,
he's our Columbo.
right.
Yeah.
So
I can't wait for Knives Out too. That's a Netflix.
I just
exclusive.
hope
that's crazy.
I just hope they can recapture it.
I hope so.
Yeah, that's
I
going to
think
be
they
a
will.
pretty tall order.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at Joey Butts, BUTTS21.
This is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
And this is Tom. You can follow me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at Facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can find the show online, Facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. And of course, don't forget our Patreon, Patreon.com/Real Spoilers. So I guess next week on the docket is Uncharted.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, Wadsworth's wife committed suicide.